B-Knocks.
Welcome back to B-KnockzTV. On this episode, I had to head back to Cali to cover another one of the greatest storytellers to ever do it, Ice Cube. Now, back in his heyday, this dude was a problem. People tend to forget that he was a monster, not only on the West Coast, but in the rap game as a whole. His acting and film career tends to overshadow his contributions as a rapper. I'm going to break down his 90s solo career after NWA, and I'm not going to cover his 2000s run. I'm going to focus on his golden years. No need to keep you waiting. Let's get it. We're going to kick it off with America's Most Wanted, released March 16th, 1990. Ice Cube's debut solo album. Out the gate, Cube was on fire after he left NWA. This album went gold within the first 2 weeks of its release, and it reached platinum status 4 months later. Production was handled by the Bomb Squad out of New York. Go do your research on them. And Sir Jinx. This album had cuts like The End You Love to Hate, What They Hidden For, You Can't Fade Me, Once Upon a Time in the Projects, I'm Only Out for One Thing, featuring Flavor Flav, Rolling with the Lynch Mob, Who's the Mac, and It's a Man's World, featuring Yo-Yo. On December 18th, 1990, Ice Cube released the Kill at Will EP, classic album cover. This EP contained a couple of remixes from America's Most Wanted, but it also has songs like Part 2 to JD's Gafflin, the iconic Jackin' for Beats, The Product, Dead Homies, and I Gotta Say What's Up. Now this song is the first time Ice Cube low-key threw a shot at NWA, and it's the precursor to No Vaseline. I'll get there shortly. On July 9th, 1991, Boys in the Hood dropped, and here's where Ice Cube played the iconic role of Doughboy. This is also where we get the legendary song, How to Survive in South Central. 3 months later, we get Death Certificate, Ice Cube's sophomore solo album, released October 29th, 1991. This is my favorite Ice Cube album by far. To me, this one is his classic, and it's his most controversial. Death Certificate is another album that my uncle had when it dropped, and I used to play this album from start to finish. At a young age, this was like a movie to me. You know how Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City was cinematic? This one, in my opinion, was the first of its kind. Production was handled by Sir Jinx, but here's our introduction to DJ Pooh on the beats. Like I said, to me, this is his classic, and every song is a standout, but I'll give you my favorites from each side. The Death side, The Wrong End to F With, Gotta Keep It Clean. My Summer Vacation, classic song and a classic story. Steady Mobbin', this was the first song I ever memorized that I can rap all the way through, real talk. The Robin Lynch interlude was hilarious. Giving Up the Nappy Dugout, Look Who's Burning, Man's Best Friend, Alive on Arrival, another crazy story. The Life Side, I Wanna Kill Sam, Black Korea, Be True to the Game, another one of my favorite songs from Cube ever. This is where he took shots at MC Hammer. Colorblind, featuring Deadly Threat, Cam, King T, The Mad Circle, and JD from the Lynch Mob. Doing Dumb-ish, Us, and the legendary No Vaseline. I can do a whole segment on that song. This is definitely in the top 3 best diss tracks of all time. Next up, we have The Predator, released November 17th, 1992. Production on this one was handled mainly by Sir Jinx, DJ Pooh, DJ Muggs, and Ice Cube. Now, y'all should know me by now. I'ma keep it clean. This album wasn't as good as Death Certificate, but it definitely has some heat rocks on it. My standouts: When Will They Shoot? Wicked, Now I Gotta Wet You, The Predator, It Was a Good Day, Tear This Mother Up, Gangsta's Fairy Tale Part 2, and Who Got the Camera? Another dope story. Lethal Injection, released December 7th, 1993. Once again, I'ma keep it clean. I never liked this album. This is the one that disappointed me. Whenever I talk music and this album comes up, people tend to forget that some of the songs we love are technically not on this album, and I'll get to that soon. This time, production was handled by QD3, 88X Unit, Brian G, Madness for Real, and Laylaw. My standouts, Really Doe, Ghetto Bird. This song was always a knocker. You Know How We Do It. You can't deny this classic song. Cave B, Gotta Keep It Clean. Bop Gun. Now I wasn't gonna name this one, but I'll be a hater if I didn't. This song was huge, and it is a classic. Make It Rough, Make It Smooth, featuring KD, and When I Get to Heaven. On November 22nd, 1994, Bootlegs and B-Sides dropped. This was a remix compilation from Cube's previous work. Like I mentioned earlier, people get mixed up with the versions of songs off this album with the originals off the Predator and Lethal Injection. Case in point, Check Yourself. The version we all know and love is the remix off this album. What Can I Do? The version that knocks with Mac 10 is on this album. The original is on Lethal Injection. Lil Ass G, once again, the better version is off this album and not Lethal Injection. These versions I just named would have made both albums way better in my opinion. Bootlegs and B-Sides also had cuts like 24 with an L, You Know How We Do It remix. I like the original better though. It Was a Good Day remix. This version was dope, but the original's better. And My Skin Is My Skin. The West Side Connection, Ice Cube, Mac 10, and Dub C. Collectively, they dropped Bow Down on October 22nd, 1996. If you checked out my Mac 10 video where I broke down his solo career as well as his family tree, you should remember that I mentioned West Side Slaughterhouse was the introduction to this group. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. Anyway, this album was a monster. To me, it's a West Coast classic. Super aggressive, and to be honest, not too many artists or groups matched the same energy that they was bringing. Production was centered around Buddha, Binky Mac, and QD3. My standouts, the whole album, but I'll give you my top 5. All the Critics in New York, Do You Like Criminals, The Gangster, the Killer, and the Dope Dealer, Cross 'Em Out and Put a K, and 3-Time Felons. On November 17th, 1998, Cube dropped War and Peace, Volume 1. So back in the 90s, a lot of people used to say that Cube fell off around the Lethal Injection days. Now, I wouldn't say he fell off per se, because he was just starting to get to it with the movies. What I will say is that this is the album that lost me. His flow was different. The sound was different. It just hit different. I don't know how to explain it. And what I'm saying is no disrespect to Cube, but this album just wasn't for me. And since I'm keeping it clean, the only song I liked off here was Pushing Weight with Short Chop. On March 21st, 2000, Cube dropped War and Peace Volume 2. And just like Volume 1, it wasn't for me. It did, however, have more songs that I liked. For instance, Hello, featuring Dr. Dre and MC Ren. The Gutter-ish, Gotta Keep It Clean, featuring J.O. Felony, Gangster from the Conrads, and Squeak Roo from All From the Eye. 24 More Hours, Until We Rich, featuring Crazy Bone, and Record Company Pimpin'. And that wraps things up for this episode. Now, before I get out of here, I would like to say that there's a couple of future Ice Cube albums that's killing War and Peace Volumes 1 and 2. And I might do another video where I highlight those, because he definitely redeemed himself. I would also like to say that those 2 albums do not reflect on how much of a giant he was and still is to West Coast rap. Leave it in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my takes. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, if you haven't checked out my previous content, go peep it. Till next time.